This message this morning was inspired by two men that I dearly love. One is Wayne Smith, who preached in Lexington, Kentucky for many years. And another man you might know, his name was Renell Guerin. He went all over southern Illinois holding revival meetings. And then we had the Coal Belt Evangelistic Association. And he would hold those revival meetings each place. And today it's called Parkland Evangelistic Association. But he was a man that really, really impressed me. And I'm so thankful that there were men like that. Renell's gone now, but oh, what he's left behind. I want to talk today about up the myth tree. Up the myth tree. What does myth mean? It means to sulk, trivial quarrels, or being offended. Up the myth tree. A cowboy was riding around and came out west to the most desolate place you've ever been in the country. And he's riding by himself and he came upon an Indian. And the Indian was on a path on the trail with his ear on the trail. And the cowboy comes up and says, "Whoa, I got to see this. This Indian is on this path with his ear on the path listening, or so it seems." Indian said, "Wagon pulled by two gray horses, two men in wagon, wearing checkered shirts, red and white, woman wearing blue dress." The cowboy said, "Now that is astounding. How did you get all that information from that?" And he said, "No, I was ran over about a half hour ago." Here today we're going to talk about people who have been ran over. When I was growing up, going to high school, we had an English teacher by the name of Mrs. Earl. And I don't know about you boys or you men, but English was not my thing. And every now and then we'd get a little rowdy and she'd say, "Order, order, order." And I said, "I'd take a hamburger and a Coke." But she was that way. But she did teach me one thing. She taught me to love poetry, believe it or not. Now, I don't care for iambic pentameter or blank verse or anything like that. But I like poetry that says something. Now, I have to explain to the young people what this poem is all about. My grandfather, when he drank coffee with a saucer. And it would come over into the saucer. And he would drink from the saucer. This was a thing that older people seem to do. Today, they don't do that at all. But you won't understand his poem unless you understand that. He says, "I'll never make a fortune. I'll never make one now. It really doesn't matter because I'm happy anyhow. As I go along my journey, I'm reaping better than I sowed. I'm drinking from the saucer because my cup is overflowed. I don't have a lot of riches, and sometimes the going gets rough. I've got some friends to love me. I think I'm rich enough. I just thank God for the blessings His mercy has bestowed. I'm drinking from the saucer because my cup is overflowed. If God gives me courage when the way grows steep and rough, I'll not ask for other blessings. I have been blessed enough. Might never be too busy to help bear another's load, because I'll be drinking from the saucer because my cup will be overflowed." Most of you probably can quote Acts 2:38, one of my favorite verses in all the Bible. And you probably can quote Psalms 23. But I want to talk about one tiny verse found in Job, the 5th chapter, verse 7. And it says this, "Yet man is born to trouble as surely as sparks fly upward." talked about that this Sunday, in Sunday school this morning, about how we encounter problems in life. Life is not easy. It gets rough at times. And so wrote Job many years ago. God had one son without sin, but he had no sin or no son without sorrow. The number one sin of Satan is not lying, it's not stealing, it's not even adultery. The number one sin is discouragement. Discouragement. We're going to have trouble every year if we have an efficient ministry here at Rosiclare. You probably said, Lord, there's no possible way that something else is going to happen, but it does. Amen. We ought to give thanks in all things, all the time. You go to the dentist and you go and he pulls a tooth and you don't say, I didn't understand that, I didn't know what he was going to do. Or you go get a blood test and they poke you and you say, I didn't expect that. Yes, you knew what was going to happen. These things are normal. But when you have people up a myth tree, Satan is going to see that it's going to happen to you. Someone is going to get up a myth tree. They always do. It does not have to be a good reason, or it may be. But I say this morning, let's apologize. Who is going to care in 100 years about the situation? Then it will make no difference. A lot of things are relative. I know a teacher that was very efficient, but very unkind. Now, she's not there at the school now, but she was at one time. And she loved to run a copy machine. She loved to run a copy machine all the time. And one day the principal came to me and said, Joe, what are we going to do with this lady? And I said, be thankful she don't fall into it, then you're going to have 2 duplicates to contend with. But she loved that copy machine. But you see people that can walk into a room and it just brightens up. You know people with that kind of personality. And there's other kinds of people that come in and they're just down and dreary and they claim to be Christians. My friend, Christians should be happy. It could be worse. In everything, give thanks. Sometimes it's to humble us. Sometimes it's to try us. The church convention at Nice in 300 AD, of the 318 delegates, 306 of those delegates wore scars. But you probably were like me. The door wasn't open until my heart was broken. The only cure for criticism in someone of a myth tree is Romans 8:28. And it says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. It did not say all good things. It says all things. All things. When life seems to be falling apart, we have that situation. And then we look back on those situations and say, now I see why that happened. At that time I didn't like that situation. I didn't like it at all, but now I see. I see why this happened. Paul suggests to the Philippian church, be careful for nothing but everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known unto God. It's really just that simple. Are you a thankful person? Are you a thankful person? It's just that simple. Flynn found that in 2 large dictionaries of psychology, he did not find the word gratitude. Could not find the word gratitude. He checked out the card catalog of large universities and could not find the word gratitude in the card catalog. Could not find gratitude. We need to have gratitude in our life. Amen. And in my life, sometimes I fail to show that gratitude, but we need to show that gratitude. Godliness is impossible without gratitude. Moses was grateful, although he had all kinds of problems taking the children of Israel to the promised land. Daniel prayed 3 times a day. And Jesus was also thankful, although he knew what was going to come. Paul mentions thankfulness 6 times in the short epistle to the Colossians. The letter to the Ephesians called on those to be filled with the Spirit and to be thankful. Are we Spirit-led? Are we filled with the Spirit the way that we should be? Sometimes we should get excited about being a Christian, and sometimes that Spirit should come out in us. I love America. If you don't like America, go to a foreign country. Go to Haiti. Or go to some place like that. But when we were coming back from Haiti, the people on the plane spontaneously started singing, God bless America. God bless America. I love America. Where else do they lock up the jury and let the prisoner go free? Where else do they play baseball under the roof? And used to go to movies outdoors? Where else do they make instant coffee and spend hours drinking it? Where else does a mother drive her children 4 blocks to a physical fitness program? America is funny. You ever notice those people that go to Walmart? The physical people, they want to get as close to the door as they can get. Never have understood that. Never have. My dad was a coal miner, and he worked hard. But where he worked, Ellenzoller, number 2, Ziegler, Illinois, there was a sign over the viaduct that said, "This is America. Love it or leave it." And I still stand for that statement today. I love America. But if all the people in the world will put on the globe, we Americans would own 57% of the things of this world's goods. We are blessed bountifully. One of the greatest Christian virtues is gratitude. You complain about the traffic? One day I was coming from church and there was a little old lady driving real slow, and I just got really upset. I said, "Get out of the road! No patience." Now I know none of you ever done that, but you know, we get upset like that. One day we came up to a lady in Harrisburg talking on a cell phone. Sitting there, talking on a cell phone. And I felt like hollering, "Lady, it's not going to get any greener." We get upset sometimes on little things that don't amount to anything. Sometimes we complain at work. We complain here, we complain there. And we find out that the Lord doesn't like us to complain. One of the things that God had against the Israelites, that they were forever complaining. Complaining about this and complaining about that. And we as Americans are truly spoiled when it comes to all those things. I arrived this morning. Guess what? No donuts. You don't miss it until it goes dry, do you not? I didn't complain, but I thought, oh, I wish I had a donut this morning. John did his best, but they didn't come through. Child passes through your life and disappears into adulthood so fast. I remember in Cambria when Mary Jo was born, the very first place she went, we went directly from the hospital to the church. She doesn't remember that, of course, but that was the first place she ever attended, was church. But there was a lady there that said, you know, it won't be long until she won't be a baby anymore. We understand that. We understand they grow up so fast. We don't miss the water until the well runs dry. Thankfulness comes from an Anglo-Saxon word which means thankfulness. Think on how God has blessed you. These criticisms won't bother you if you have those. A man was going to sell a house. He was dissatisfied. And the realtor wrote the description of the home. And he read it back to him and he said, you know, that's the kind of house that I always wanted. I don't want to sell it. But we see Christians today, they don't seem to be happy. And it's always amazed me because we should be excited about the Lord Jesus Christ. But I believe a lot of Christians have been baptized in dill pickle juice. That's the way they act. We need to get away from that. We need to be thankful for the things that we have. We all get really low if we're honest with ourselves. But none of us have the nail prints in our hands. We need to have enough grace to be sweet under all conditions. And that's hard to do, especially if you're married. You must have patience with people up a miff tree. I've never once apologized for my religious position, but I've apologized a lot of times for my disposition. Patience is the ability to put up with the very things you would like to put down, called patience. Patience is found 33 times in the New Testament. Patience is a child of tribulation. James 1:3 says, trying of your faith worketh patience. Romans 5:3 says, tribulation worketh patience. You can't build a great church unless you have patience. You've got to have patience. You can't be a good teacher or a preacher without patience. A teacher put some worms in water and then added alcohol. And the people washed and they noticed that the worms died. And he asked the young person, says, what does that mean? And he says, the way I see it, alcohol, or alcoholics, don't have worms. Don't get sorry when things don't go your way. Don't be a baby and say, I'm not going to play. Grin and bear it, and you'll earn a crown to wear it. Marion Henderson, and again, young people cannot identify with Marion Henderson, one of the greatest black singers that ever lived. And he was asked one time, what's the most important thing in your life? What was the most important day in your life? He said, when Roosevelt invited you to the White House? Or when royalty invited you to sing in England? Or when you sang at the Washington Monument with 75,000 people watching? He said, no. No. When I went back to a little walked up on a porch of a shack and said, "Mama, you won't have to do washings anymore." Are you grateful? Are you thankful? Everybody is. Don't judge too hard. Another poem. Pray don't find fault with a man who limps or stumbles along the road, unless you have worn the shoes he wears or struggled beneath the load. There may be tacks in his shoes that hurt, though hidden away from view, or the burdens he bears placed on your back might cause you to stumble too. Don't sneer at the man who's down today, unless you felt the blow that caused his fall, or felt the shame that only the fallen know. You may be strong, but still the blows that were his, if dealt to you in the self-same way, at the self-same time, might cause you to stagger too. Don't be too harsh with a man who sins, or pelt him with words or stones, unless you are sure, doubly sure, that you have no sins of your own. For you know, perhaps, if the tempter's voice could whisper as soft to you as it did to him when he went astray, should cause you to falter too. Many people walk into a church and say, "I don't care. I don't care about the people up in this tree." We as Christians need to care. We need to be concerned. And the only way this can be overcome is through love. And sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes it's very difficult. We have many things to be thankful for. God forbid. Forgive us when we complain, because complaining displeases the Lord. Everyone here this morning is rich. Perhaps your heart has been broken because of your children. No one can hurt you like your children. Sometimes we have it rough. It's like the man that was on an airplane, and he decided to jump out of the airplane on his 75th birthday, and his ripcord didn't open. And he was about 300 feet from the ground, and he looked down, and there was another man coming up. And he said to the man coming up, "Do you know anything about parachutes?" He said, "No, but do you know anything about lighting gas stoves?" We all have problems. We all have problems. Just like this man. Life's not easy. Life gets tough. And we need to understand that. A parent's grief. A boy was sent to college, and the parents sacrificed to no end. But then, when he graduated, he earns twice what his father earns today. He eats and he sleeps. His mother still does laundry, but he never says thanks. Never says thanks. From King Lear, "How sharper than a serpent tooth than to have a thankless child." One graduate in Lexington, Kentucky. Some of you know about Lexington, Kentucky. There's a little university there. It's called University of Kentucky. And they were at Rupp Arena. Have you ever been to Rupp Arena? That's a big place. I had the privilege once to go into the front. I didn't get to see where they play basketball, but John probably been there. I don't know. Never been to Rupp Arena? Boy, I can't believe that. But we were there. And I noticed all the wonderful things, but there was a graduation ceremony there. And the boy received his diploma. And he didn't go sit with the graduates. He went over to his grandmother and said, "Grandmother, this is yours. You earned it." Sometimes in the ministry, we are guilty of refined brutality. In our failure to say thank you, in our failure to say, "I love you." It's one thing to sing the Star Spangled Banner. It's another thing to join the Army. When is the last time you said you were thankful to your wife, to your parents, to their leadership of the church? When have you said thankful? Or when have you said, "Thank John for what you do"? John sacrificed a great deal for you, because I know, I've been there. It's not easy having a full-time job and preaching as well. It's difficult at times. It's hard. Sometimes you're not with your family the way you would like to be. So we need to be grateful. We need to be thankful for the people in our life. What care I for the pure white rose, held in my cold dead hand, the sweetest word I cannot understand. If you've got anything to tell, you ought to do it now. There was a young man, or an older man, by the way, that I wanted to see one day, and I said, "I don't have time. I don't have time to go tell him what he has meant to my life." I came home that week. I'm going to see him the next week. But guess what? He was gone. Be sure and tell people now, when you can, how much you appreciate them. Satan will see to it, if you're carrying the ball, you're going to get tackled. You probably know that this is Super Bowl weekend. And people get so excited about that. I was told that the average ticket is $6,000. I don't know what's wrong with people, but that doesn't make sense to me. $6,000 for a ticket to nothing but a ball game. That's old how but they get excited. Why can't we get that excited about being a follower of Jesus Christ? We've got so much more than they had. I used to play sandlot football. A bunch of us would get together as boys. It wasn't organized, just a bunch of boys that got together. We'd play football. And we didn't wear any kind of protection at all. And we tackled one another, and wonder we didn't get killed. But I remember one day playing, and I'd had the football 3 times, and both times I got clobbered good. And I got in the huddle with the quarterback, or the boy that was sending the quarterback, and said, "Whatever you do, don't give me the ball again." When you're carrying the ball, you're going to be tackled. Satan's going to work overtime on you when you get serious about the Lord Jesus Christ. When you're carrying the ball, you're going to get tackled once in a while. And he's going to try to discourage you and tell you it's not worthwhile. But don't believe him. But if you don't want to be tackled, don't take a stand. Mary Martin, another lady that young people would not recognize, was playing the South Pacific in Chicago. She was ready to go on stage, and she was handed a note, and the tears creased her cheeks. She recognized the writing before she saw the name, Oscar Hammerstein. She knew he lay dying, and he wrote the lyrics of South Pacific. And he wrote, "Dear Mary, a bell is not a bell until it rings. A song is not a song until you sing it. Love in your heart is not put there to stay, And love is not until you give it away. That night the performance was so different. What was the difference? What was the difference, she was asked. She said, tonight I gave it away. We as Christians need to give it away. Let people know about Jesus and get excited. And if we do, there'll be fewer criticisms, fewer mysteries, if you let people know that you love them. And you let God know you're thankful for what you have.